Welcome to another episode of Crash Chords Autographs. I, of course, am Matt, aka Stormageddon. And really quick, before we get into this week's episode, I, of course, want to thank my patrons Rob, Frankie, Emily, Greg, Rocco, and Case. Thank you so much for supporting me via Patreon. If you, too, would like a shout-out at the top of the show, you can go to patreon.com/Stormageddon, give it the $5 level, or at any level if you just want to support me. If you can't do it that way, you can, of course, share the podcast, rate us, write us a review, retweet us on the social media. Any of that stuff is super helpful for getting the word out about the show, and I appreciate it. Moving on to this week's guest, the incredible Kathleen Choe, who I met through my incredible spouse, Sarah. Kathleen is an incredible actress and video editor and more. She is incredibly talented, funny, kind, and just a badass in all respects. I had such a great chat with her about her time on the Netflix series Maniac, as well as a bunch of other things. So without further ado, here is my incredible conversation with the brilliant Kathleen Choe. Very excited to have you on the show because I've known you for a long time, just as one of Sarah's friends who I met through Sarah and who was at our wedding and who I got to party with. But I've gotten to know you over the years. And of course, I also know another side of you, which is your acting, video editing, all performance self as well. So I'm really excited to get to chat with you. In case I haven't said it yet on air, I'm talking with the incredible Kathleen Choe. So Thank you for joining me.
Oh, thanks for having me. This is awesome. I'm like such a fan of your podcast. So this is like, I'm like super excited right now.
Oh, thank you. That's very sweet. So I guess the first thing I wanted to start by talking about is, so you've done quite a wide range of different works. You work both behind and in front of the camera. I'm curious, did you always want to be an actress? Did you always want to work in film and TV? Is that a thing that you've always wanted, or did that come later?
I actually did not start out wanting to be an actor, which is very funny. A lot of my film and TV friends still kind of like poke fun at me for that. I went to NYU for film and television production. And I loved movies. I still do. I loved movies. Didn't have a lot of filmmaking experience in high school just because my high school wasn't equipped for that, but was obsessed with movies and went to NYU. And then looking back on it, it's really funny when you sort of looking back on it. Like my last year, I was getting really, really burnt out and I was doing all the right things. I had an internship. I'd learned nonlinear editing, so I was employable. I had production experience. And I was going part-time my last semester. One, because my scholarship money ran out, and two, because, I was like, okay, well, if I'm only going part-time, then I'll get to work, which I did. So everything, in the economy was good at the time, and I graduated and I got work. I had an NYU degree, so I got work like fairly easily. Well, not easily, but it opened a lot of doors. Yeah. Still had hustle. I was still a woman and still POC. So had a hustle. And but yeah, I mean, I got work, and then I just I worked. And the thing is in the business too is that it burns you out. It just does, because like you start out as a PA or you start out as an assistant and the hours are grueling and the pay is low. And I was excited. I was just happy to be working. But I worked my way up the ladder like fairly fast, just because. And then I remember I was producing like a series of short films that was going to be on Sesame Street, and I should have been over the moon, and I was just so tired. And I was like, wow, like I'm making money and I actually really don't like what I'm doing. And it was hard because I was good at it. I mean, it's like producing is a skill, and it was just something that I happened to be good at. And I also started out as an editor, which I still do, obviously. But I don't do it to the extent that I was. Like I was doing 12-hour shifts of overnights because I was an assistant. And and the money was great. Like I was in my early 20s, and I didn't care that I didn't sleep at night, and my rent was paid, and I had money left over. And then my eyesight actually started to get worse. And my doctor, I remember going to him, and he was just so concerned. And he's like, "Hey, kiddo, your eyesight shouldn't be like, I know you're genetically disposed to like bad eyesight, but it shouldn't be this bad." I'm like, "Well, what do I do?" And he says, "Well, you could keep doing what you're doing, and we can just go with it, or you can find another line of work." And I just remember being like kind of devastated and also relieved at the same time, because it was good work, but it was also like I sat alone in a room most of the time in the dark. Yeah, you just, if you don't have a lot of interaction, like you kind of get weird. I think a lot of
Yes.
people are finding, I think a lot of people are finding that right now. It's like, oh, like
Yes.
I haven't talked to a human. I should probably do that. And it's a revelation as an introvert, because,
Yeah.
I do enjoy my alone time. And so that's what I kind of relished about being an assistant editor. It's like, I'm alone in a room and I get to do my thing. And then it got to be like, I'm alone in a room and, oh, okay. And I'm just talking to the computer because I'm going nuts. So, yeah. And then, so I just kind of burnt out, and then, but I kept working, obviously. And then, a friend of mine was like, there's a program. I started just taking acting classes because she sort of encouraged me. She's like, try something new. And I ended up liking it. And then the teacher took a liking to me at the class I was taking and said, you have a good feel for language. There's a summer program at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art in London. If you could go, I would encourage you to. I was like, okay. So I went, and I came back. I'm like, oh, Christ, like, I really love this. What do I do?
Oh, no, I like this thing.
Like,
How do I do more?
How do I do this? Like, what do I do? And I just started making money in like film and TV. Like, what do I do? Which was, had made my parents feel better about the path I've been pursuing. They're like, oh, she's making money. It's fine. And then I was about to embark on this other thing. And I talked to the same friend who had encouraged me taking acting classes. And she was one of my best friends in college. She still is. And she was like, look, you know what my life is. It is 98% trying to get a job and 2% actually having one. And, I've never forgotten this. She's like, the 2% has to be worth it. It just has to be worth it. Otherwise, it's not worth doing. And I was like, okay. And I thought about it long and hard. And I was like, all right, well, I think it's worth it. So, and now here I am.
Here you are.
Here I am. I know.
It's really interesting the path we take to get to the arts that we want to do. Like,
absolutely.
I've been podcasting for a long time now, but
I know.
like, and I always kind of wanted to be like a radio DJ back when radio was still a thing. I mean,
Totally.
I guess it's still a thing, but like, I never envisioned that this would be my path. But I think a lot of folks, especially around our age, like kind of find a thing that they're good at, and then they find a way to build success around it, because that's kind of how the job market is right now. Nobody kind of falls into work anymore. You kind of have to drag yourself, kicking and screaming sometimes, because things don't really fall into your lap. And like looking at even the list of stuff you've been in, it's a wide variety of things. So I imagine, while auditioning and looking for work, it must be a pretty hectic process trying to get booked and the audition process. I imagine I know the answer to this question, but does the audition process stress you out? Does it freak you out? Or do you just kind of, it's the work and you got to do it?
You know what? It's gotten there. It used to freak me out so much, and now it's sort of like, oh, I have an audition, like I have a chance to act, which is great. And I think one thing that's also come of being in quarantine is just, I'm doing a reading right now. I'm in a rehearsal for a reading, which is over Zoom, OFFs, because we can't be in the same room together. But we're all collaborating on this script. And I love working with new playwrights. I think that's also why I like working in TV. It's just because I know a lot of people complain because, oh my God, the script is changing all the time. But I actually enjoy that. It's like, oh, okay, like this is written better now, or I get this more. And I think a lot of it, and, Sarah can attest to this, is just like the way that our program was. It was about collaborating with new playwrights, and like something is constantly evolving. But yeah, it was just, obviously like everything shut down on the 13th, and we've all been home, and I'm doing this reading now over Zoom, which I'm getting paid for, which is nice. And it's just nice talking to a director, talking to other actors, and like figuring out characters. And I was just like, oh yeah, like I really love to act. Like this is a good reminder. And so with auditions too, it's I get self tapes, and it's, you know, I go back and forth. Some of it is like, oh God, I'm so tired. I mean, like a lot of us, I think, are just like, I can't like function today or whatever. And then, but you know, now I get them. I'm like, oh, okay, great. Like this is a chance for. There's still opportunity. You know, like I really miss the. I won't say I miss auditioning. I miss the high of possibly getting a job. As funny as that sounds, you know. Yeah, yeah. It's been really curious. I'm like, oh, like wow, I never thought I would miss that. Okay, this is good.
It's funny with you specifically as an actress. When I first met you, I knew that you and the group of friends that Sarah knows you through were all involved in TV and movies to some degree, and you know, but I didn't quite know. I might have known that you were an actress, but like it was very nebulous, and it wasn't until much later, like I would walk into the room and like Sarah would be watching something, and there you are, just popping up on screen. I think it was your episode of Quantico, which was a show I didn't watch, and Sarah had watched without me, and I remember like coming into either the bedroom or the kitchen when she was watching it, and like just as your scene starts with the lead actress of the show, and I was just like, wait, is that Kathy? Like, and it's just so surreal. And what's even funnier is like knowing you and knowing your personality. We've gotten to hang out quite a few times,
Yeah.
and I adore you. But like the kind of snarky sarcasm that you had, at least in that scene, I was like, oh, yeah, that's Kathy.
Yeah, that's totally her. Yeah, it's her. I know. Well, what's so funny too is like when people, for the most part, it's. I remember one of the first commercials I booked, and I didn't have any lines, and I just kind of like stood there and smiled. And I went to Thanksgiving, and my uncle was standing outside having a smoke, and I'm like, hi, you know, it's so good to see you. He's like, you know what? I was watching TV the other day, and I saw this girl on it, and she looked just like you. I was like, oh, what was she doing? It's like, she was smiling at a bunch of people, like a bunch of old people, like outside of a deli. I was like, yeah, that was totally me. And he was just looking at me like, oh, you know, yeah, it's funny because I know people sort of see that, and people who know me, and then they see me, and some people are like, oh, that's totally you, and other times they're like, God, you didn't act like you at all. I'm like, oh, okay, like I don't know quite how to take that, but sure. Like, is that good or bad? Like when I was a lawyer on SVU recently, like someone said to me, it's like, God, you're so bitchy. Like, I'm so glad you're not like that in real life. I'm like, I don't think she's okay. You know?
Sure. Well, I mean, and like, you know, fans will kind of blur the lines a little bit, you know, or people who really like those shows, like, you know, Sarah having recurred on as SVU as many times she did, like a lot of the folks who follow her are like, oh my God, you know, like Sarah would post photos of her baking something and they would say stuff, and like it's just kind of the realm of this line between actor and character.
Right, totally.
And social media has kind of like blown that up a bit because you have a little more access to those people if you want to follow them and interact with them. I want to talk about one of the more recent things you did, which was back in 2018 when you were on Maniac, which was a TV miniseries on Netflix. And what was really cool about that was to get, you know, a lot of the stuff that you'd done before and after are like, you're this one character in this one episode, but this, you were a recurring character, 3.
Yes.
And like, it must have been so fun to be able to play in that space and work with these actors because it seems like also the show is just very different from anything you had done as well.
Yeah, totally different. No, it was a blast. It was, and it was, you know, that was a classic though, in that the scripts were changing every day.
Oh, wow.
They were changing every day, and so we kind of didn't know what to expect. And I think one of my castmates put it best. It's like at one point, you know, and I like to be prepared. And so I would get the scripts and I would read them and be like, okay, this is happening today. And I was also nervous because it was my first, you know, time on like where I didn't just show up for the day. I was there for quite a few episodes. So, and I wanted to get it right. And, which is, you know, we all know that it's like there is no getting it right. There just is. But I'm like,
Right.
oh, I don't want to screw up. So, but I remember one day, like I had a scene with Jonah, and there were lines, and I'm being nervous. So and there's only like a handful of them. Okay, and I'm like memorizing it and doing my work and whatever. And then one of the PAs comes up to me. He's like, "Hey, Carrie wants to talk to you." I was like, "Oh yeah, sure." I'm like, "Oh shit, am I going to get fired? Like, what's going on?" Of course, I immediately go there.
Right, of course.
And and I meet him like, "Hey, what's up?" And he's like, "Hey, so I'm thinking about the scene, and I think there's a way we can make it funnier. So like, let's talk about it." And part of me was so happy, like, oh, I'm going to get to contribute. And the other part was like, motherfucker, like I've been working on this and now it's all going to change. Like, oh, but it was really great. Like, and that was also, it was like being in a theater, and you're talking to the playwright. I was talking to Patrick, the writer, the head writer, and I was talking to Carrie, and it was the three of us together just like making up shit, which was really funny. Yeah, the whole bit about, it's like, I'm pretty sure he has what did I say? I was like, the other one, it's like, I don't trust this place. It's like, I don't know, people keep disappearing. And like, I'm pretty sure that guy has my father's eyebrows or something. And like, that just came out, because what was really funny was that Justin, he actually did have my father's haircut, like way back in the 80s.
Oh, wow.
And I remember that the first day I saw him, I was like, that's my father's hair. Like, that's just so funny. And I was like, maybe I'm making that up. And I came home and I like looked at a picture. I was like, nope, that's my dad's hair. So there was a day on set when he and I were just kind of alone together and, just kind of chit-chatting. And I was like, hey, like, I just have to tell you this, but you actually, your hair is exactly the way my father's was, like in the early 1980s. And he just laughed. And so that was fun. But yeah, it was trippy. Like, I remember my first day on set, just walking around, just be like, this is amazing. Like, it's just so amazing. And it's so weird. And so like, but, they created this really amazing world where sort of like anything could happen.
Yeah.
And which is one of the things I really loved about it. But sometimes like none of us knew what was going on. So I was like going back to my training, I was like, why might my character not know what's going on? And that helped a lot. So I'm like, okay. I mean, it also helped that like the cast that I spent most of my time with, which was Elise and Danny and Steven, they're all so great. And they've been doing this for a while. So, just to kind of be around them and, I'd have moments where I'd be like, oh my God, I think I'm going to get fired. And then one of them would be like, yeah, me too. I was like, you? Like, why would they fire you? Like, you're
right,
amazing.
Yeah.
But they would say the same thing. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I was like, oh my God. I thought I was the only one. Okay, that's great. So, yeah. But it's the set, the camaraderie on set is just kind of amazing.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me at all to hear that other artists think they're going to get fired all the time. It's I think something all of us do as nerds and as artists. We just assume that we're screwed around every corner, even when we're not. Just right. Not even based on any reality. It's just like
right.
It became a running gag where one of my other podcasts that I do with my friend Rachel, who's a comedian, we say at the end of every episode that we think the network we're on is going to fire us. It'll never happen, but like it gives into that like paranoia that you're like afraid that any minute could be your last for whatever you're doing.
I know, and it's how we psych ourselves out. It's just so funny. I mean, they obviously hired us for a reason, and right. It's just because of like what we can contribute, and that's what they want. And so, and everyone screws up. I think that was another thing that I really kind of loved, is just watching everyone make mistakes, like yeah. I'm watching Sally Field and she like dropped a line. I was like, oh my God, you're Sally Field. Like what?
Right.
I don't understand. Yeah. So it was, but it was a great job. It was a really great job.
I want to talk a little bit about like the fact that you're a multi-hyphenate and you could probably do anything, which is very impressive to me. And the fact that not only do you enjoy acting and you're an incredible editor, and you also enjoy knitting, cooking, skating, you're a photographer. Like, it's just... And I mean, I think that's kind of a sign of the times, right? Like, we all have to know how to do a ton of things. Like, the reason I know how to edit audio and can edit all of my own podcasts is because no one was doing it for me, right? Like I wanted to make a podcast, so I had to learn. And so like I imagine a lot of the both hobbies and non-hobbies that you do, a lot of it comes from like, well, if no one else is going to do this, I got to do it.
Right, but it's also stuff you have aptitude for. Like you learned how to edit your own stuff, and you're actually good at it. You know, I'm guessing you enjoy it. I'm guessing because you
mostly,
do this a lot. But you just have a certain aptitude to it. Like I love, what was so great was that you and I both worked on that show that Angelique Roche did with Samus and just the Creative Quarantine series. And I just remember like watching that interview, and Samus is talking about being a multi-hyphenate and how we're all sort of like taught at a very young age that we have to be like one thing and pursue this one thing. And so, but now it's more accepted to be a multi-hyphenate, like J-Lo or, she's the only one who's coming to mind right now, or you, or me. There we go. Actually my friend James Eigelhart, he wrote some comic books for Spider-Man, which I think is amazing because he's also a huge nerd. Yes, he did. Which I haven't gotten to pick up yet, but he's done that. It's just, I don't know. Yeah, it's like I learned how to edit and I actually like doing it. I love the problem solving and the puzzle solving. I'm going to totally nerd out for a minute, but like Marsha Lucas for Star Wars is kind of like my idol because it's just in terms of editing, because she basically took Star Wars, and a lot of people don't know, it's like she took Star Wars and she made it into the movie that you see today, pretty much, because that's like all her. And like the classic thing is, worked with the team, of course, but that the scene with the Tusken Raider where he's going like, he's like clobbered Luke and he's like raising the rifle up and down his head. That actually never existed. George Lucas had cut off the camera, like as the Tusken Raider put his arms up and down, and that was it. That was all the footage there was. And this is before digital. So they had to extend that moment, because that was the beat. And so they took that film and they basically made a dupe of it over and over. And that's where you get the Tusken Raider putting his arms up and down. And I remember hearing that in class and reading about it later. And my teacher going like, that's craft, you guys. Like editing is not just putting stuff together. It's about like the flow. It's about beat. It's about timing. It's all this. And I just remember being like so enraptured by that. I still am, when I'm cutting something together. It's just kind of like, when does it feel right? Like when does it, because like human beings, we have a sort of natural rhythm that we sort of live our lives to, even though we don't, like, we're not aware of it all the time. But it comes out in filmmaking because there's a natural rhythm of things, and you can see it. It's like you can see when something is badly edited. It's sort of
absolutely,
yeah. And some of us more than others because it's what we do for a living. Just like I'm sure you can hear like bad cuts in podcasts and like audio recordings, be like, oh my god, like who edited that together? It's it's sort of see it.
Yes,
but
for sure.
Yeah. So I enjoy that. I enjoy writing. I enjoy. You have to love it, because most of the time people don't want to pay you to do it. So
right.
Like, you do have to,
And what was really funny about what you were saying before about editing and recognizing the craft is like Sarah and I will talk about this all the time when it comes to audio editing, because a lot of podcasts get produced out of this small Brooklyn apartment. When you can cut audio together where there was no breath and like there wasn't a natural pause, and you can make it sound seamless so the sentence is just ongoing, it feels like a magic trick. And I imagine while editing too,
oh my God.
while editing, I must feel the same. Like when you get like the perfect beat for a reel, or when you're editing stuff together and it cuts together well, like even better than you thought, you're like, it's magic.
I know. And the really funny thing too is like when you can manipulate it, which sounds horrible, but it's really true. It's just sort of like when you can manipulate it and the action still seems seamless, but the beat just kind of goes on, it's just, I just did that right now in somebody's reel, which is a different beast in itself. You're trying to at least the way I do it, you're trying to focus it so that it's on the actor and showing off what the actor can do of whose ever reel it is. So you don't want it lingering too much on other actors' faces. And so, when you can cut it together and make it seamless and just make it seem like that actor who may have had like 2 lines in the scene is the star of that scene, I'm just like, oh, it's so great. Yeah, but it's even, and there's all this. It also makes you realize the sort of power of the medium, of filmmaking and TV. It's because how you can sort of, again, there's that word, manipulate it, or just, I guess, craft it. That's a better word, right? That has more
Sure.
positive connotation. Yeah, let's do that. How you can craft it so that the focus is not on another person, or it becomes another person's story, or it becomes from their point of view. It'll never stop being fascinating for me. Like, it's just so great.
That's awesome. Well, and so like I have a question. So obviously I've watched a bunch of the things that you've been in, but I did watch your reel before the interview just to freshen up and remember some stuff. With your reel, did you edit your reel, or is it too close? Do you need someone else to do it for you?
I edit my own reel, but for Maniac in particular, I basically hired someone to go through the episodes that I was in and pull out my best bits because I was way too close to it. Yeah, I couldn't do it. I tried, and I was just sort of like, I honestly like, wow, this is what I tell my clients all the time. It's like, I think I know what my best bits are, but then like I don't know if it shows me off. And there's one scene that's in my reel that I actually don't like the way I look, but everyone, the person who picked out my stuff was like, you look good in it, and everyone else is like, you look great, and I'm like, okay, so I'm obviously saying something that they're not,
Right.
so I'm going to trust them and put it in. And yeah, it's the one where I'm shoving food into my mouth. I'm like, I look disgusting. I'm just like I'm like, blah, blah. And like my friend who had pulled it was like, you have to leave that in there because it's so funny. I'm like, all right, fine. But yeah, I mean, that's a lot of when I have meetings or whatever, people are like, God, you're just so good in it. And I was like, oh, well, thank you. And I was like, yeah, that scene about the cat's uterus. I'm like, oh my God, like really? Why is that the consistent one across the board? Like, I think the one where I'm going like, hey guys, what are you doing? I actually think that's pretty cute. But no one talks about that. I'm like, okay.
You never know what people are going to focus on. And recording as many podcasts as I do, like people will call out jokes that I made 15 episodes ago, and I'll have to like nod and smile. I'll be like, sure, yeah, that sounds like something I would have said. I'm sure I did. I'm glad you enjoyed it, because like I can't remember like the amount of hours I've recorded myself speaking. And also I don't listen, like when I edit stuff, I don't listen to anything I'm saying. I don't care. Like I'm listening to the guest or the other co-hosts, because like I am at one with my own ridiculousness. And so if I say something like stupid or put my foot in my mouth, so be it. Like, unless it's something, of course, like I shouldn't have said, or that's offensive, or like I should know better, like that's a different story. But like otherwise, if I come off just sounding really goofy, I don't care. And it's one of those things
awesome.
where you can't always see what other people see. And so it's important to listen to those other people when they say, oh, this is great, or this is not great, or what was this,
Right, exactly. Yeah, I know. We're like our own worst critics. It's really, really, really true. And that's why I always tell, with certain, it's like you work with certain artists, like certain directors and certain actors even. And it's just sort of like, I feel like the ones who are the most successful are the ones who know how to collaborate. And that's with anything, I remember reading something about Spike Lee and how he just basically walks away when he's in the editing room. He's just like, I let him handle it, and then I come back and I see what he's done. I was like, that's great, because I know so many people who wouldn't have that kind of trust, just be like, I need to be there for every single cut that's being made. And when I was working more as an editor, I worked with people like that, or assisted an editor on stuff like that. And it's never a fun room to be in, like ever, because someone is being so incredibly micromanagery and just is way too close to the material. And editing is all about like being ruthless. It's like, what is going to tell the story? and not be superfluous. You still have to retain the audience member's attention. And which is why I get so irritated at filmmaking where it's just shot after a beautiful shot. I'm like, okay, this is gorgeous, but it's like, I didn't go to the movies to go to a museum. Like, and it's horrible. Like, there are some cinematographers I really love, and there are some shots that are really beautiful, and I'm like, it's just not necessary. It's not. It's gorgeous, and sorry, put a big red grease pencil through it. Like, it's got to go. Yeah.
It's a good transition, though, to my next question, because I was going to ask, like, as an actress and as an editor, do you find that you can still enjoy TV and movies and kind of turn your brain off and just take it in? Or are you always analytical and looking at it through a lens?
Ooh. You know what? Like, when I was first out of film school, and this is because I was just first out, I wasn't able to join the movies as much. Like, it was like you said, it was like I would go in and just like, they did this, or they did that, or what, whatever. And now I think I'm finally back at the point, or maybe I've been here for a few years, that like I can go to the movies and actually enjoy them because it doesn't seem like work. With acting, it totally depends. Like, there are sometimes I go and I can't help myself. I just kind of pick it apart. But there's sometimes I go and I like observe, like Cate Blanchett. I remember seeing her. I've seen her twice. I saw her in Uncle Vanya, and I just like loved everything she was doing. Like, it was just so incredible to me. And the thing is, what was so great about it is like I never knew what she was going to do next, which is what I kind of love about her. Like, she came from a school of very it was about it's a different method of acting than the way like I learned, but
Right.
It was still like, there are some people who come out of certain training programs and you know what they're going to do, like you just know, and so watching them is not very exciting. But then there are actors like Cate Blanchett, who I watch and I was like, I don't know what you're going to do next. Like, this is great. Or Ian McKellen, same thing. It's like, I don't know what you're going to do. Like, this is so exciting to me. So I like watching from that point of view. But like, then there are actors I watch and they're just so bad. I'm just like, all right, what are they? Which is horrible to say, but
Sure.
It's like, but you're like, okay, what are they? Okay, yes, and oh, now you're okay, all right, cool, blah blah, and now you're just yelling, and now you're angry. I'm making air quotes, like you can see me, but yeah, I know it's always this like fine balance. It's just, but it's terrible too because like I'll be watching. I finally saw Endgame, like. I can't believe it took me this long, but I finally did. Well, also because the movie is long. And I was like, all right, I need to set aside 3 hours of my life because I want to watch it because it's the end. I think also I didn't want to watch it because it was the end. And I thought by not watching it, it wouldn't be. Whatever, that's the way my mind works. But I finally watched it. And I just remember watching this one actor in particular and just being like, okay. Like nodding my head and just be like, dude, what are you doing? Oh, okay. Okay, cool, interesting.
Yeah, it's funny to have those interactions or different knowledge backgrounds to go into that stuff. Like, it's funny you mentioned like Cate Blanchett and Ian McKellen before, and like watching those two actors play in the Marvel universe or the extended Marvel universe, like in X-Men, which wasn't part of the MCU. Like, they are so much more interesting to watch than a lot of other folks on screen because of their styles. Like Cate Blanchett as Hela was just put things into that character that I don't think anyone else playing Hela would have done. And it made it more interesting in that way, And then like, it's one of those things also, like you mentioned Endgame, like Endgame hit me hard, not necessarily because of the performances, but because of the way the story ends. The fact that these characters you've been with for so long, like
I know.
I saw it in the theater twice. I haven't watched it since it came to Disney Plus, but like both times, I'm ugly crying in the final scenes, and Sarah's like just holding my hand, and
my god.
It ruined me. And I don't know that it's necessarily the performance. I think, of course, it's partly the performance, but I think part of it is also just the ride, right? The spectacle, which I think is just as important.
I know. It's like that. I mean, talk about like this great cinematic moment when like suddenly all of them like are together you
Yeah.
know, and like all the portals open and all of them are together, and then Captain America goes like, assemble. I'm like you, I'm like bawling. Like, I'm alone in my apartment. I mean, I've already been in quarantine for God knows how many days, and like I am like crying. Like, it's just horrible. Like, there's a box of Kleenex in front of me, like, oh my god, this is like terrible. But yeah, I don't know if I can watch it again either. It's just, I mean, it's the same reason why, the last Star Wars movie, you know, it was the ending, and Star Wars, like, such a huge part of like who I am, you know. One of the first movies I ever loved, like, I can quote The Empire Strikes Back, like, verbatim from beginning to
Nice.
end, which is like a little scary. Yeah, but I can do it because that's how many times I've seen the movie. I still think it's the best one. No one can change my mind, and if you try to, you're wrong. But it was such a huge part, and so when it finally ended in like the Rise of Skywalker, you know, which is not a perfect movie by any means, but I was like full on. I was at the Alamo, like full on ugly crying into my wine and popcorn, and my sister's like patting me on the knee. I'm like, oh my god, yeah. I mean, it was just, but it's the wrapping up of a legacy and of a storyline. And I know I got like a lot of flack because people. I mean, you know, people were very divided about it. It was like someone's like, well, it was fan service, and so it was this, and you know, they completely took what Rian Johnson had done in the second movie, and they said, well, actually, I was like, you know what? I don't mind, because for me, it was always about this myth, you know, and this ongoing myth, and that's what kept me invested for like years and years and years, and so I thought it was a fitting ending, you know.
Sure. Yeah, I stayed out of the Star Wars discourse, but I did say in the theater when I saw it with Sarah that I liked that movie. I liked Rise of Skywalker. Was it great? No, but like the scenes where Ben is running to rescue Rey, like that whole moment still made me feel something, and I got a lot out of it. That said, of course, I loved what Rian Johnson built to. And I would have loved to see that expanded, and it's a bummer that it didn't. And I think we would have gotten a better movie if we could build on that. But that said, I'm still satisfied with the ending. I also am a diehard Star Wars fan, but I have other things to love. So like, if it's not perfect, I'm not heartbroken. But you know, I mean, you can't tell someone else how to feel about a thing they care about, right? Like, they're going to be passionate about it however they are. I mean, some of the Star Wars fans need to jump in a lake, the ones who are like, you know, like chasing Kelly Marie Tran off the internet and all of that nonsense. Like, that was all really stupid. But like, you know,
so dumb.
I think that at the end of the day, we take a lot of this stuff personally because it feels personal to us. You know, I was the same way with the music back in the day too. Like, I hate Green Day now, and I grew up loving Green Day, and it's because like their music took a turn that I was just like, this is garbage. What are you making? Why are you doing this? But you know, it's not. What are you doing? But Green Day probably thinks they're doing a great job, and so you know, it is what it is. But it's very easy to get wrapped up in it.
It is, and there's also that question of like, as an artist, you know, when you get to that point, when something becomes bigger than you, like, what do you owe your fans? You know, again, I'm making air quotes in my room, like you can see what I'm doing, but it's true. It's just like Star Wars became this huge, enormous thing, and then the prequels, as much as I hate them, were what George Lucas wanted them to be, you know? Yeah. So now that I've had some distance from them, I can like look at it like that. But yeah, as movies, I don't think they hold up. But there are some people who do. My brother-in-law and I argue about it all the time. He's like, they're not horrible movies. I'm like, oh, you and I are going to fight now. And but he has a certain, you know, he likes them. He thinks they fit well into the myth. And I'm like, they are not. You know, it's so funny because the Mandalorian, there's like some. Have you been watching the behind the scenes shows that are streaming right now on Disney Plus about them, where they go?
I watched the Mandalorian, but I have not watched the behind the scenes stuff yet. I want to, I just haven't yet.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating. There's this one episode where Dave Filoni is talking about the relationship of like Anakin's arc throughout like all of the 9 movies, and he's talking about like the search for a father figure, and like basically Anakin was like looking for a father figure and blah blah, and how that sort of like that theme pervades throughout all 9 movies. I'm totally paraphrasing, but I'm like, how Qui-Gon was sort of the substitute father for Anakin, and then he got killed and all that kind of stuff, and so it's Anakin's search for this father figure, and I was like, okay. I didn't see that executed in the first 3 movies. But to hear you, Dave Filoni, talk about it sounds really cool. Now, if that had been the 3 movies that I had seen, I think I would have enjoyed them more, but they were not. So there's that. That being said, what you just said is kind of amazing. So, but yeah, I mean, he truly believes that, and like so does George Lucas, and I'm like, I don't know, guys, like I don't see it, like I just but I believe that you believe it, and sure. yeah, and I have my own relationship to these films that I love, and but they're also the product out of your brain. So again, there's that thing, it's just sort of like they've created something that is larger than them, and so who owns it now?
Right. Well, and that's like the biggest question when you create anything. Like I've done thousands and thousands of hours of recorded audio, and like after a while, like the shows are the people for the people listening. Like I can say till the cows come home that I'm making them for me, and I am to a degree, but like it's also for the people listening, and upgrading equipment, getting educated on topics less about, trying to do better, promote diverse voices. All of this stuff comes with the territory of making something, and I think we're all, because of the amount of access we all have now to everything from cameras to audio equipment to the internet, we're learning how to create in a different way that I don't think people have done before, including more diverse voices, making sure that you're not just casting a ton of white men, the idea that we can grow the art that we're making. And I think it's figuring out how to navigate that space and doing it well and efficiently. That is where it becomes the hardest, but is worth the fight because it's important.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's so important. It's just, it's just sort of like everyone, like with the onset of technology, and like you can make a movie on your phone now, and, you can make a podcast from your apartment. I mean, these are all great things. And it's just like, well, who's getting the attention? There's this thing going on right now in the theater world where the Parsnip Ship, which is a podcast that has been doing plays via podcast for like years. And mostly like people of color and marginalized voices. And now that we're all in quarantine and, theater companies can't get together, like I think Williamstown and another company was like, oh, well, we can put plays online, and then NPR picks up the story and says like, oh yeah, they're taking this novel approach to making theater. And they got called out on it. They're like, you know what? The Parsnip Ship has been doing that for years. So again, you're co-opting something and, and using it to promote white theater and saying that it's your idea. And it really wasn't. It's just, I know, it frustrates me. So it's just like, and it's NPR. They should have known better. Like, I'm like, who wrote that article? Like, who did not do their research?
It's an endless battle, and it's also like it's upsetting because the media doesn't always necessarily know, like they just don't do the extra work, right? Like I remember I've been podcasting for almost 8 years, and I remember when Conan started his new podcast, Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, which I'm a fan of because I like Conan O'Brien a lot. I remember when he, like within the first like month or two that it's out, it's got these record numbers, and like some magazine wrote him up as like the future of podcasting. Conan makes it mainstream, and I'm like, what are you talking about? And what's worse is like they didn't even interview Conan, they just wrote an article about him. So like Conan doesn't even have anything to do with it, and probably didn't feel the way that they were right. Like, I mean, he's a comedian. He's always self-deprecating, but like, it pissed me off so much as someone who's been doing this for so long. And it's like, because this famous white guy is doing it. I mean, and I'm a white guy too, but like, it's just this famous, what?
Oh my God.
But like this famous white guy who's been on TV for ages does it. So now it's the new hip thing, even though it's a thing that's been around for almost a decade. And he came to it because he had nothing better to do at this point, or wanted another thing to do.
Right. It's just so insane. And, like you, it's like, I like Conan. Like, I like a lot of these people and companies doing this work. It's just like to all of a sudden have it get attention because of who they are and for credit not being due to the people who started it. I mean, to their credit, Williamstown, like, actually, like, after I think the article came out, approached the Parsnip ship and said, like, look, like, sorry, like, that, we're actually huge fans of yours. Like, we never meant to imply that we came up with this. And, I don't know, like, I don't want to lay blame or whatever, but it's just like, okay, like, they didn't have control about how it was put in the press. But the fact is, like, NPR did not acknowledge that it had been done way before, it was like a flicker in their eye, like, oh, let's do a podcast. So yeah, it's like that's like the love-hate relationship. Not even love. Twitter is just so much noise. I know a lot of people I love, like, really love it. But for me, it's just always been about so much noise. And I was talking to a friend about this who was like addicted to Twitter. Mm-hmm. And she was just like, it's a way for marginalized voices to be heard. A lot of like reporters, like a lot of BIPOC journalists are all over Twitter. A lot of BIPOC writers, are very active on Twitter. So there's that. And I'm like, okay, like, that's valid. It's just, I don't know. I haven't learned how to filter that. I'm just sort of like, oh my God, there's so much.
I mean, I feel like with social media, you've got a friend of mine, Stella Chu, who is a well-known cosplayer and big-time nerd and streamer, talks about how with social media, you have to master one. Like, you can use as many as you want, but you have to focus on one. And I think, for me, the reason Twitter feels like a thing that is positive and that I can be heard on is because I've also curated it within an inch of its life. I'm not following anybody that I don't want to hear from. I am, because it's not like I can get my news from a ton of places. If I'm going on my social media, it's to engage with folks, and it's how I've made the most connections in the video game industry that I've ever made is through Twitter. But it's not everything is for everyone. Like, on the same hand, I deleted Facebook from my phone, and I don't use my personal Facebook anymore. I use my professional page and the pages for my podcast because I don't have a choice. Like, they won't exist if I don't use them. But I had to remove Facebook from my phone because it was stressing me out and making me upset. And we all have family members, that family member who we don't want to interact with on the internet because they're a Trump supporter or whatever other thing. And it's like, yes, we should be engaging those folks in conversation, but you'll never win an argument on Facebook, ever.
No, you won't. It's just, I know. And I keep seeing, like, I've been slowly pulling back on my Facebook feed. And I'm much more like, I prefer Instagram. I just think I don't know, it just drives with me. So, but like you, it's just like, all right, well, I have to put stuff out on Facebook or else, it didn't happen, quote unquote. But yeah, I mean, it's just hard. It's just, and what I feel like, conversation needs to come back. It's like people try to change each other's minds over social media. And I just never see that happen. It's just like, they get into like these Facebook wars, like online, and it's just like a lot of noise. And I just feel like, people like, if you sit down in front of each other, like face to face, I think that's when actual change is there. Because when you're behind a keyboard, you're picturing, for whatever, maybe we're just hardwired this way as humans, you're picturing the worst case scenario of human on the other side of the keyboard.
Absolutely.
And so you're responding to that. when you actually don't really know who the other person on the other side of the keyboard is, unless, of course, they happen to be your friend, you know.
Right.
But even then it can get weird, you know. It's just sort of like your friend will post something, and if they said it out loud in front of you, you'd have been like, oh, okay. But then they post it, and you're like, what does that mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, totally. And like, you know, like I have friends who have posted fat phobic stuff on the internet, and it's like I'm married to a plus size woman. Really? Like, you know, I can see this. What are you
Right.
doing? Like, but people don't think when they're behind a wall of anonymity, and they just assume
Right.
I'm free of judgment. And like a lot of people like to claim free speech. It means the freedom to speak, you idiot. It doesn't mean you are free of consequence when you speak.
Right, exactly. It's like you can say whatever the hell you want. It's just like you just have to, you know that people are going to push back.
Yeah.
I know. I love
It's
that argument.
astonishing it's just astonishing the freedom that people think they have behind a wall of the internet. But let's shift the
my
conversation
God.
back to you and talking about the things you've done. So we talked a lot about your different hobbies and what you do to keep busy. We are in a time of quarantine. As of when this episode comes out, we should still be in quarantine wearing masks, people. Still,
Yes,
we're
wearing
not through
masks,
this
social
yet.
distancing, please. Oh my God, please. Yes, Jesus.
But what I wanted to ask you was, as an actress and as an editor, do you find that you've been more productive or less productive now that you're stuck at home more?
It goes through phases. Like
Yeah.
the way I cope, I've discovered, is that I keep busy, you know. And so for the first few weeks of quarantine, I was like insanely productive. I was like, oh my God, I have all this time. And so my writing partner and I were like, okay, so we're going to like finish up the pitch for our TV show. And, we're going to finish writing the character Bible and like everything. And then I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, blah, blah, blah. And then I think week 2, I hit a wall.
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, and that's when I sort of like lay in the middle of my living room floor being like, I can't function. And I sort of let myself have that, for like a good week or so. And then after that, yeah, I mean, I've been pretty productive, which has been great. It's just sort of like, and the thing is about me too, is that I love to do stuff. And then I start beating myself up because I'm like, well, I'm not doing enough. You know, there's always
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's like, there's like, where's that line of enough? And so I started, before quarantine happened, I had been taking private Korean lessons, which is something I'd always wanted to do. And I found a really great teacher online. And so I started taking lessons. And then quarantine hit. I was like, oh, wow, now I have all this time to study. And then I got really frustrated because I wasn't fluent after a month.
What?
Like,
You
what the
weren't?
hell? I'm not fluent after like a month of like intense study. No, I wasn't fluent. Can you believe it? It was like
Yeah.
insane to me. But I wasn't fluent, and or I wasn't progressing as much as I thought I should have. And then I got really depressed, and then I had to sit myself down and be like, you know, I have made so much progress in that last month because I've had time.
Yeah.
People do not learn how to speak languages in a month, no matter what Rosetta Stone and Babbel try to sell, you know,
Right.
that dream to you. That just doesn't happen. So I have to, you know, sort of step back. And also, just like my real business is going in a different direction, like I'm working more with journalists, as you know, and not just actors and coaches and public speakers. And I've been able to make some headway in that area. And just writing and just like reading books. Like, oh my God, there's all these like things that I was like, I never have time to just sit and read, you know. And I was a huge bookworm when I was a kid. Like, I was that kid taking 9 books out of the library. Like, when I was a kid, like my mom would just drop me off at the library when she had to go do stuff and like come back because I would still be in the same corner just like reading. But I haven't. There was this, God, I'm totally dating myself, but there used to be this commercial when Shelley Duvall would say like the average American only reads like 1 or 2 books a year.
Uh-huh.
And I remember seeing that commercial be like, that's not true. And then now I'm much older and I'm like, oh, that's totally true. Like, oh my God. So, yeah, I've been able to read, which has been really great. it engages a different part of your brain,
For sure.
and it just, yeah, it's a different, and it's really weird too after, you know, realizing me how like connected I am to my phone. And so I have this rule now where I'm like, okay, like 10 o'clock, my phone goes down. I do not touch it. I'm with my parents now who have a house. So I like put it in another part of the house.
Yeah.
and I let it charge and I go into my room and I read a book. And the first night I did it, I felt like something was off in my brain. It was just, because I'm reading a book and it took me like a good 10 minutes to be able to focus on the book. And once I was focused on the book, I'm like, oh, this is great. But for 10 minutes, I was like, like just jerking around, like, what? So, yeah, I mean, it's been, and everyone's in a different place. Like, some
Totally.
people can't, they're just not able to. Some people are using it to rest, which is great because they usually don't have the time. I've been reading a lot of articles about, I mean, I grew up with this big family and we were kind of in each other's space all the time. And as I got older, it wasn't until like I got older that I realized like, oh, not everyone grew up that way. Like
Right.
with cousins coming in and out of the door all the time and, your aunts basically being like your second mothers, like not everyone grew up like that. And some people just don't grow up with their siblings, I mean, I did, but I know some people who don't. And I have a friend who's, her kids are like 10 years apart and they've been forced to all be in the same house together. And she's like, it's really heartwarming because, she'd be in college and she wouldn't be able to watch him grow up. And now she is, she's like, and they're really close now. They wouldn't have had that if that hadn't happened. So, I mean, that's a good, I mean, that being said, she's like, and then there are the, moments when they want to kill each other.
Sure.
Because you have this like 18-year-old and an 8-year-old in the same house. So she's
Oh boy.
yeah. So it's like but people are able to have that now. It's like I'm sheltering with my parents right now. And it's sort of like, it's a gift to be able to relate to them as an adult, I think.
Yeah.
And to be able to see them for who they are as people as opposed to them just being your parents, So I consider that a gift, as sappy as it sounds. It's kind of true.
I mean, sappy's okay. I don't mind sappy.
Okay.
I think that with the quarantine, it's one of those things where you can go either way, but it's going to ebb and flow for most people. Like for me, I felt completely unsatisfied. And once I got furloughed from my day job, I was like, all right, I'm going to fill my time. I'm going to stream more, which I have been doing mostly consistently.
Yes.
I'm going to work on some other stuff. But like, I thought, well, I'm quarantined. I already have 4 podcasts, but maybe I should start a new series that's something very different so I can work on that. And thankfully, like, it's within the feed of Fun and Games, which is my video game podcast. It's a shorter form series, and it involves a ton of guest hosts talking about their favorite video games. And it's really been a lot of fun. It was born out of seeing a lot of negativity online on Twitter about video games before they've even come out. Like certain games, like I hate this thing, it's gonna suck, it's terrible. I'm like, why are we hating on these things that other people might love? Like if you have a critical lens to it, and you're like, this mechanic doesn't work or these graphics are bad, fine, whatever. But like to just rain on people's parade for no reason didn't make sense. So it inspired me to start this series where I have a different host every episode, take about 5 to 15 minutes talking about a game they love and why they love it. And I have folks from all over doing it. And it's like, it's fulfilled me in a way during the quarantine that I don't know that it would have if I was still working my day job and I wasn't stuck at home. I think we all pursue things that allow us to continue to live and grow and learn and feel fulfilled while we're stuck at home and we can't go outside.
Right. And also, like, you learn to or relearn stuff. Like, I've been taking dance class, online, and it's just sort of like I'd sort of given up and be like, I'm never just going to enjoy dance class. But now I'm, like, doing it online with I Believe to Achieve Fitness, and, like, my friend Shannon Stowe, she's also teaching dance online. And it's just fun. I was like, oh, my God, I never thought dance would be fun again. You know, like this is, I'm getting to move my body, I'm getting to create. And, you know, if I kind of like fuck up, it doesn't matter. Like this is just nice, you know? And just having, I think that pressure of, you know, like I can make something and it doesn't have to be like amazing. You know, I'm just making it because it makes me happy. Like with your podcast, you're like, I just want to do this because it speaks to me. I think now that we're not in the hubbub of our daily lives, it's like I guess in a way, weird way, and like seeing this with a lot of people, it's like you have permission to just do stuff, you know. It doesn't have to be anything. Yeah. But then there are other people who are like, well, I don't want to do it because it's not going to be good and what's the point? And, you know,
yeah, like, sure. Yeah. And I get that too.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that too. Yeah. I mean, I've fought with that too. It's like just writing. I'm just like, oh, blah, blah. And that's when it also helps to like have a partner. Yeah, like Betsy, who, you know, Betsy Sanders. It's like she and I have been writing. Yeah, she and I were writing this TV show, and we're just like having fun doing it. And you're just
that's like, so awesome.
Yeah, like we're putting this Bible together, and we're doing this, and we're doing that, and we're just like laughing as we come up with these like season arcs because we're, you know, both also nerds. So we're like, and then in season 3, like this will happen, and blah blah. Like it's just super. You know, it's just fun, and like if somebody picks it up, great, and if someone doesn't, like we just had so much fun doing it. You know?
Yeah, and I think that's important to it, is enjoying the process along the way. If you're tearing your hair out along the way, then even when you get to the end, like what's going to be the point? I think it's finding that joy in those things where you can, that are going to only strengthen the things that you're making.
Right. Exactly.
And I mean, I do have to say, and I will say it on the air, that you and Betsy and that whole crew that I met through Sarah, all of you have been so supportive of me and Sarah, both on the internet and in person. Like, I have an endless amount of love and thankfulness for y'all. Like, I remember how genuinely excited you were at the wedding, which is already over 5 years ago, which is insane to me.
Oh my God, I know. The pictures came up in my Facebook feed. I'm like, oh my God. Like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, that was a great fucking wedding. Am I allowed to curse?
Thank you. Yes, you're allowed to curse. Yes, absolutely.
That was like a great fucking wedding. Like, I was just like, we had such a blast. Like, this is so much fun. And then like Sarah's getting like up there on the stage and she's like rocking out in the guitar. I was like, this rules. Like, it was just so great. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it was extra special to have you all there. I think that it's rare that you find friends that even if you don't know them that well, that they give you their all. And that's what I love about you, Kathy, and why I think we've connected so well, even though we don't get to spend a lot of time together, is because you seem to put 100% or more into everything that you do, including friendship, including, you know, your acting and everything else. And it definitely shows. I see it everywhere.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I don't do anything by halves. I mean, and it's so funny because it's like I always used to think that was something that was off about me. You know, it was just like, you know, when I was like growing up, people would be like, oh God, you're way too much. And I'd be like, okay.
Sorry.
I know. It's like, you're too much. And then, I mean, I remember it's bringing up like this really great memory, but like when I first started grad school and like meeting Sarah and just like liking her immediately because, you know, again, I'm like thinking about like all the TV boards that I was like on at the time, like Television Without Pity. Whatever happened to Television Without Pity? You know. Anyway, I don't know, but Television Without Pity, and just being like, you know, being obsessed with like boards for like Dawson's Creek. Oh God, I'm totally nerding out right now, and and just being like reading spoilers and all this kind of stuff, and like for other shows as well. And then for some reason it came up in conversation with me and Sarah, and I was like, oh, I like you. Okay, like, you know, and we were getting looks too because some people were like, what the hell are you two talking about?
Yeah.
But then other people too like came up to us and were just like, yeah, like, have you been reading on the boards like this and that? We're like, yeah, oh my God. And I'm like, oh, my people. But it was like when I started working in filmmaking too, it was the same thing. It was like suddenly I wasn't like the freak anymore. Like there were people who knew more than I did. Yeah. You know, and I mean, like, dude, like, I thought I was a nerd, but you are like a nerd, you know, like, wow, I need to turn my card. but that, and then I worked in animation for a while, and like animation, like the people, like you will never find better people. Like they're just like, everyone is just a nerd. Everyone is just owning it. And, they know, again, like way more than you. Like a lot of these designers and directors and writers, like, and you know, those are like some of the funnest parties I've ever been to. So, and all of them are giving it their all. Like nobody half-asses it, you know. And life isn't fun when you half-ass it. Like, don't you think? It's like if you just go through it and just be like, okay, I guess. Like, you know, it's just, I don't know. It's kind of like, sad.
I feel like people who consume entertainment of any kind or art of any kind have a better lens now in a modern age to know if you're phoning it in. And I think it's pretty apparent pretty quick. And I think authenticity is more important now than it's ever been. But I want to thank you, Kathy, for taking the time to hang out with me and chat with me.
Yeah.
This has been a pleasure. Before we wrap up, I have one final thing that I need you to do for me. We have a saying on the show. I don't know if you're familiar, but it's music is life and life is good. It's this idea that if you're creating art or engaging with art, even when life is at its worst, you can still pull some good out of that. You can still find comfort in that. So I would ask for you to just sign off the show by saying music is life and life is good.
Music is life, and life is good.
That's it for this episode of Crash Chords Autographs. Our theme music is by Michael Kill. Our logo was designed by Case Aiken and Joey Amons. If you liked the show, please rate and review us on iTunes and Facebook. You'll help us reach more listeners. Questions, comments, or guest recommendations? Email matt.storm@crashchords.com or hit us up on Twitter @CrashChordsWeb. Thanks for listening.
Hi, this is Victor Devon, and I am the host of We Burlesque, the podcast. Every Monday, I talk to fabulous denizens of nightlife, including burlesque performers, both seasoned and new to the form, drag performers, performance artists, DJs, and artists who make up their respective scenes. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, and more. Please visit WeBurlesque.com to check out episode recaps and see all the formats available. And remember that music is life. Life is good.
Video games are a unique medium.
They can tell stories,
Immerse us in strange, fantastic worlds.
blur the very boundaries of our reality.
But at the end of the day, video games are fun, whatever fun is to you.
I'm Jeff Moonen,
And I am Matt, a.k.a. Stormageddon.
and on Fun and Games, we talk about the history, trends, and community of video games.
It's a celebration of all the games we play and all the fun we find within them.
And there's so many more games out there, so we hope you'll share in that conversation with us.
Fun and Games podcast with Matt and Jeff. Find us on certainpov.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
And happy gaming.